I rejected a billionaire. And not just any billionaire, Leonardo Moretti, the man who practically owns half the city, with a presence so intense it could silence a room or make it tremble. And it all started on a night I simply wanted peace. The cafe was closing when he walked in, tall, immaculate, tailored black suit, radiating a quiet danger that made the air feel heavier. People usually stare at him like he's too dangerous to look at for long. I should have done the same. But when our eyes met, he walked straight toward me. "You're the only one who doesn't look away," he said, like it was either a compliment or a warning. "I didn't know I had to," I replied, unsure. A slow smile tugged at his lips, but didn't reach his eyes. Interesting. Then he made the offer, dinner with him that night. No context. No explanation. No reason. I turned him down. He stared at me like no one had ever done that before. "Are you sure?" he asked, voice low, calm, dangerous. "I don't go out with strangers." "I'm not a stranger." That's exactly what a stranger would say. His expression shifted. Curiosity, annoyance, or something far darker. I didn't stay long enough to find out. I grabbed my bag and walked out into the dim street, trying to ignore the way my heartbeat tripped over itself. I thought rejecting him would be the end of it, but I had no idea who Leonardo Moretti really was. No idea that saying no to a man like him was the kind of mistake that came with consequences. That same night, I noticed I was being followed. Footsteps matching mine, shadows clinging to the walls. I walked faster. They did too. My chest tightened with fear. Then a black car screeched to a stop beside me so suddenly I almost screamed. The door swung open, and he stepped out. Leonardo Moretti. Not angry, not offended, but terrifyingly calm. "I told you it wasn't safe to walk alone at this hour," he said, as if I had asked for his protection. "How did you find me?" I whispered, my voice shaking. He took a step toward me. The men following me stepped back, as if they feared him more than anything else. "Because someone like you shouldn't reject someone like me," he murmured. "That doesn't make any sense." "Oh, but it does." His eyes flicked toward the shadows, then back to me. "You don't know it yet, but you've put a target on yourself." "A target?" "Yes." He extended his hand. The city felt like it stopped breathing. "Get in the car, Emilia. Now." "Why?" "Because you said no to the wrong man, and the people trying to destroy me think they can use you as bait." My blood went cold. "You're saying they'll come after me because of you?" "They already are." And right there, in the middle of that empty street, under a flickering streetlight, I realized something terrifying. My no hadn't freed me. It had marked me. And now the only man who could save me was the very one I had rejected. "Get in the car," he repeated, voice like velvet over steel. "I won't ask again." I got in. Without knowing, my life would never be the same again. The door shut behind me with a soft, ominous click. Inside the car, everything smelled like leather, cold air, and danger. Leonardo slid in beside me, closing the distance until I could feel the heat radiating from him. He didn't look at me at first. He simply tapped the tinted glass, and the car pulled away smoothly. Only then did he turn. "You're shaking," he said quietly. "I was being followed," I whispered. "Of course I'm shaking." His jaw flexed. "That won't happen again." "As if you can control that," I muttered. He leaned closer. "Emilia, I can control far more than you imagine." My stomach twisted. The way he said my name was too intimate, too practiced, like he had already decided I belonged in his orbit. I took a breath. "You said those men were after me because of you." "They are. But I don't even know you." "You will." "That's not comforting." His lips twitched, almost amused, but his eyes stayed sharp, calculating. "You think I approached you by coincidence?" "I what?" He didn't blink. "I've known who you were for 3 weeks." The air left my lungs. "You researched me?" "I watch what matters. I am a waitress, not someone who matters. You mattered the moment you walked into that courtroom to testify against your ex. I froze. My heart stopped. My breath stilled. He knew. He knew everything. How do you? I make it my business to know who in my city is being hunted. Cold washed over me. Hunted? By who? He looked away, out the window at the passing lights. Men worse than your ex-men who want leverage. Men who will use anyone to get to me, including innocent women who don't understand the world they stepped into. I didn't step into your world, I said, voice breaking. I said no to dinner. And that, he said slowly, put a spotlight on you. His eyes returned to mine, dark, intense, impossible to escape. Do you understand now? I swallowed.
Barely.
So what? You take me home? Hope for the best. He shook his head once.
No.
I'm taking you somewhere safe. I stiffened. Where? He held my gaze for a long, uncomfortable second. My penthouse. No, you can't just take me, Amelia, he cut in, his voice impossibly soft but undeniably final. You have two options. Go home and get taken by the men following you, or stay where I can protect you. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. This isn't romantic, he said. This is survival. The city blurred outside the windows. My pulse thundered. Why me? I whispered. He looked at me like the answer should have been obvious. Because you're the first person who ever told me no and meant it. I stared at him, confused. Terrified. Drawn in despite myself. And now, he continued, voice dropping to something dangerous and intimate, I'll make sure you live long enough to tell me no again. I didn't know whether to be afraid of him, or of how safe I felt sitting beside him. The car turned sharply. We were no longer heading toward my neighborhood. We were heading into his world. Into danger. Into protection. Into something I wasn't ready to name. And I fear there was no way back. The elevator shot upward, so fast my ears popped. Leonardo stood beside me, one hand casually in his pocket, the other holding a security card that probably opened more doors than I ever wanted to know about. I pressed my back against the mirrored wall, keeping space between us, even though the elevator felt too small, too intimate for the amount of danger swirling in the air. He finally spoke. You're quiet. I'm processing, I muttered. What part? The men following you? Or the fact that I'm not letting you go home tonight? Both. His jaw tightened. I don't apologize for protecting people under my watch. I'm not under your watch, I shot back. He turned his head slowly, his eyes landing on me with heat and warning mixed together. You are now. Before I could answer, the elevator doors slid open to a silent hallway lined with dark marble and soft lighting. It didn't look like a residence. It looked like the entrance to a private kingdom. This is where you live, I whispered. In one of the places I live, he corrected. That somehow made it worse. My footsteps echoed as I followed him to a set of tall double doors. He pressed his palm to a sensor. Locks clicked, multiple heavy ones. Inside, the penthouse was huge. Cold. Immaculate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, like he owned every inch of it. Maybe he did. This is temporary, I said quickly. Right? Just until the threat is gone, he finished. And how long is that? His silence was answer enough. My stomach dropped. Amelia, he said softly, as if sensing my panic, sit. I'm not a dog. Then sit because you're scared. Not because I told you to. I hated that he was right. I sat on the edge of a leather sofa that cost more than my yearly salary. My hands trembled. He crouched in front of me, actually crouched so we were eye level. I know you don't trust me, he said. And I don't expect you to. But trust this. I'm the only thing standing between you and people who would use you to hurt me. I didn't ask to be part of your world. No one asks. Something dark flickered across his face. Memories, maybe. Regrets. But you're here now. And I'm not letting anything touch you. I swallowed. The truth settled heavy on my chest. Are you dangerous? I whispered. He didn't hesitate. Yes. My breath caught. But not to you, he added, voice low and certain. Never to you. His honesty rattled me more than any lie would have. Why are you helping me? I asked. His gaze held mine unwavering. Because I don't allow innocent people to get punished for my enemies, and because the thought of something happening to you makes me angrier than it should. We barely know each other. Maybe, he said, standing slowly, but I know enough. He walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. You told me no. You walked away. You didn't try to impress me or manipulate me like everyone else does. You acted like I was just a man and not a name people whisper about. I stared at him. Is that why you've been watching me? I asked quietly. He turned his head slightly. I wasn't watching you. He paused. I was protecting you. My heart stuttered. You were in danger long before tonight, he said. You just didn't know it. I stood up, legs unsteady. Leonardo, what are you expecting from me? He looked at me fully now, eyes dark and unreadable. Nothing, he said. I don't want payment, loyalty, or gratitude. His voice dropped. But I do expect you to survive. And that means staying close to me. He took a step toward me. Slow. Deliberate. Whether you like it or not, you're safer with me than anywhere else. My pulse thudded in my ears. And you know it. He stopped a breath away. Close enough for me to feel his heat, his power, the danger and safety mixed into one impossible man. Tonight, he whispered, you sleep here. I swallowed hard. Where in here? His lips curved slightly. Not a smile, but something darker. In the guest room, he said. A beat. For now. The implication in his voice made my knees weak. I didn't know what terrified me more, the men hunting me outside, or the man determined to protect me inside. I barely slept after what happened in the alley. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the look on the man's face, the one who had been spying on me. The one Luca's men stopped before he even spoke a word. Morning came too early, but I forced myself out of bed. Pretend everything is normal, I told myself. Pretend you're not living between two dangers, the past behind you and the man whose shadow now protects you. I walked to the kitchen of my tiny apartment, trying to steady my breathing. That's when I noticed it. The envelope. It was slipped under my door while I slept. My heart dropped so fast I had to grip the counter. I knelt and picked it up with shaking hands. No name. No address. Just a smear of black ink across the front, like someone changed their mind halfway through writing. Inside, a single sheet of paper. My breath hitched. You think you're safe. You're not. No signature. No explanation. But I knew the handwriting. It was his. My ex. The monster I ran from. A cold wave washed over me, the kind that makes your skin crawl because it feels too familiar. Too close. I grabbed my phone with trembling fingers and dialed the only number burned into my mind after last night. Luca answered on the first ring. Did something happen? His voice was calm, but I could hear tension underneath, like steel pulled tight. I swallowed hard. He found me. A moment of silence. Not long, just enough for me to feel it. I'm coming, he said. And the line went dead. Seconds later, engines. Multiple. The low rumble of black cars turning onto my street. I backed away from the door, pulse pounding, even though I knew it was Luca and his men. Still, a part of me couldn't forget what it felt like to have someone else show up uninvited. 3 heavy knocks. Not threatening, controlled. Open the door, Luca said from the other side. I did. And when I saw him there, dark suit, jaw clenched, eyes burning with a kind of protective anger, I almost collapsed with relief. His gaze dropped to the envelope in my hand. Let me see. I handed it to him. He read it once, then looked back at me with something fierce in his expression. He's not getting near you again. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to trust someone again. But fear still wrapped around my ribs like cold iron. He already has, I whispered. He was here right outside my door. Luca's jaw tightened. He gave a sharp gesture to two of his men. Search the building. Every floor. They disappeared instantly. Then Luca turned back to me, voice lower but steady. You're coming with me. You're not staying here another night. My breath stalled. Where? Somewhere he can't reach you. I should have been scared. A normal person would be. But all I felt was the smallest flicker of something I hadn't felt in years.
Safety.
Even if it came wrapped in danger. I didn't argue when Luca told me to go with him. Something inside me, something exhausted, beaten down and done running, simply nodded. His men flanked us as we walked out of my apartment building. People on the street stopped and stared at the line of black SUVs waiting at the curb, but no one dared come close. The moment I slid into the back seat beside Luca, the door shut and muted the outside world. For the first time in what felt like forever, I let out a long breath. The city blurred past the windows. I kept my eyes on the streetlights, counting them like they were anchors. Luca finally spoke. Do you have any idea how he found you? I shook my head. I changed my number. I used a different name in my job. I never posted anything online. I did everything right. His voice softened just slightly. People like your ex, they make it. Their mission. They don't stop. I swallowed hard. I know. We drove for nearly an hour, the roads getting quieter, the houses farther apart, until the city dissolved into darkness and private security gates. When we finally pulled up to a massive iron gate guarded by two men, I felt my chest tighten. The property stretched farther than my eyes could follow, trees lining a long driveway, lights glowing against an enormous stone mansion at the end. I blinked. You live here?
No, he said.
This isn't my main residence. This one is cleaner. Cleaner? I repeated. He didn't elaborate. The gate opened, and the SUV rolled forward. Inside the mansion, everything felt cold, not in temperature but in atmosphere. Quiet halls, spotless marble floors, paintings that probably cost more than my entire building. Luca dismissed his men with one look and turned to me. You'll stay in this wing, he said, leading me down a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. 3 guards will be outside the door at all times. No one gets in. And how long am I staying? I asked. As long as it takes. I stopped walking. As long as what takes. He turned toward me, and for a moment his expression softened, almost human beneath all the danger. As long as it takes to make sure he can't hurt you again. Something inside me cracked, just a little. Not in a dramatic way, more like the first fissure after too much pressure. He opened the door to a room bigger than my entire apartment. Soft lighting. A bed that looked untouched. A window overlooking the forest. It didn't feel like a prison, but it didn't feel like freedom either. Before leaving, Luca paused at the door. There's something you need to understand, he said quietly. When you walked into that alley last night, you weren't a stranger. Someone had already marked you. My blood turned cold. What do you mean? He looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. You weren't just running from your ex, someone else was following you. And I intend to find out who. And with that, he closed the door, leaving me alone with a silence that suddenly felt much heavier. The first night in the mansion, I barely slept. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow sliding across the walls made my heart hammer. I kept telling myself it was just the size of the house, just the quiet, just my imagination. But deep down, I knew better. By morning, I had explored the wing I was confined to. It was luxurious, more than I'd ever imagined having, but sterile, like a showcase rather than a home. There were windows everywhere, yet none looked out onto familiar streets. Trees and darkness were all I saw. Breakfast arrived at 9 a.m. exactly, carried by a silent man in black gloves. I ate mechanically, my thoughts tangled in memories of Ryan, in the shadow of the man who had chosen to protect me. It wasn't until Luca returned that I felt the weight of his presence fully. He didn't knock. He just appeared in the doorway, watching me with that unreadable expression. "You're awake," he said simply. I swallowed, feeling exposed under his gaze. I couldn't sleep. He stepped closer, stopping just short of invading my personal space.
Good.
"I need to speak with you." I followed him to the study. It was smaller than the grand hallways of the mansion, but intimate, the walls lined with shelves filled with files and objects I couldn't begin to understand. He gestured for me to sit, and I obeyed, heart racing. "This won't be easy," he said. "Your ex isn't the only problem. There are others who have noticed you. You're connected to things you can't see yet." I felt my stomach twist. Connected how? His eyes were dark, intense, calculating. "The life you ran from, it doesn't forget. People like Ryan leave breadcrumbs. And someone powerful saw them. They're watching." My throat tightened. "Why me? I'm nobody." "You're nobody to them," he admitted. "But to me, you're everything. That's why I brought you here. That's why you're safe, at least for now." There was a long silence, the weight of it pressing down like the night itself. I wanted to run my fingers over his hands, to ask him to make it all disappear, but I couldn't find the courage. Finally, he reached across the desk, his hand resting lightly atop mine. Not touching me, but connecting in a way that grounded me. "You need to understand something," he said quietly. "This is more than protection. Once you stay here, once you allow me to protect you, you become part of my world. Dangerous, yes, but safe. And I'll do everything to keep it that way." I nodded, not trusting my voice. He gave me a brief, almost imperceptible smile.
Rest. Eat.
"Stay alert. And remember, trust me. For now, that's all that matters." As I left the study, I felt the mansion shift around me, the shadows feeling heavier, the air thick with secrets I wasn't yet ready to uncover. And yet for the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of security. Because I knew that behind the danger, someone was watching, and someone was ready to fight for me. The next day, the mansion felt different. Tense, alert, as if the walls themselves were waiting for something to happen. People I hadn't seen before were suddenly present in the hallways. Quiet men in dark clothes, communicating only through brief nods and hand signals. It didn't take long for me to realize that security hadn't just increased. It had doubled. I found Luca in the surveillance room, something I hadn't even known existed. Screens lined the walls, showing every corner of the estate, inside and out. A cluster of red markers blinked on a digital map, concentrated on the borders of the property. He didn't look surprised that I had found him. "You need to see this," he said, stepping aside so I could view one of the screens. A man stood in a blurry, low-light image captured from a camera hidden in the woods. He wore a hood and gloves, but his posture, his broad shoulders, the tilt of his head, I recognized him instantly. My ex-Ryan, the person I had escaped from, the reason all of this had begun. "He's here," I whispered, heat rushing to my face, fear gripping my spine. "He was here," Luca corrected. "He's not alone. And he's not acting on his own." I turned to him, shocked. "What does that mean?" Luca folded his arms, the expression on his face shifting into something sharper, colder. It was a look I had seen only rarely, the look of someone preparing for conflict. "It means someone bigger is involved. Someone who benefits from scaring you, chasing you, pushing you into running." My pulse quickened. But why? Why me? Luca didn't answer immediately. Instead, he tapped on the screen, zooming in on a symbol spray painted on a tree trunk near where Ryan had been standing. A symbol I didn't recognize, some kind of insignia. "Because you witnessed something without knowing it." His tone was calm, but calculated. "Months ago. Before you ran. Something Ryan never told you. Something he tried to bury. My breath caught. I had no idea what he was talking about. But Lucas seemed certain. Before I could ask, a soft knock interrupted us. One of the security men stepped inside, handing Luca a tablet with a short message displayed across the screen. He read it once, jaw tightening. "What is it?" I asked. He looked at me, and there was something new in his eyes. Not fear, but urgency. "They found the car that was watching the mansion last night," he said. It wasn't Ryan. My heart sank. If it wasn't my ex, then someone else was getting closer. Luca turned off the monitor with a decisive motion. "You need to stay inside. No wandering the halls alone. No opening doors. No talking to anyone I haven't introduced you to." I nodded, but inside, panic swirled. Whatever world I had stepped into was far more dangerous than I had understood. And for the first time, I wondered if choosing safety with Luca had pulled me into an even darker storm. The mansion was quiet that morning, but the calm felt fragile, like the stillness before a storm. Weeks of uncertainty, danger, and hidden threats had left me wary, yet there was also a strange comfort in knowing I wasn't alone anymore. Dante had returned as promised, his presence immediately filling the house with an invisible protection that made even the most fortified walls feel secure. His eyes met mine across the foyer, and in that moment, I realized how much I had come to rely on him, not just for safety, but for the way he made me feel seen, valued, and strong. "I have resolved the situation," he said simply, taking my hand in his. "Ryan and the others will no longer interfere." Relief washed over me, though it was mingled with the awareness that the world Dante inhabited was never truly safe. Yet, for the first time, I understood that danger didn't have to mean powerlessness. We walked together through the garden, the morning sun casting gold over the carefully trimmed hedges and fountains. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of peace. We spoke little, but every glance, every touch, said more than words ever could. Dante finally stopped near the edge of the lawn, turning to face me. "You've made your choice," he said, his voice steady but gentle. "I have," I replied, confidence threading my words. He nodded, a small, rare smile touching his lips. Then we moved forward, together. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't without risk. But the life I had once feared, the life I had run from, was behind me. I had chosen a new path, one that was uncertain and dangerous, yes, but filled with respect, trust, and even something I had thought impossible, love. And as we stepped into the house, hand in hand, I understood that sometimes the most dangerous choices were also the ones that led to freedom. The cage I had entered willingly had no locks, no chains, only the promise that we would protect each other, always. Sometimes salvation comes in unexpected forms. Sometimes love is found in the shadows. And I was ready to live it every single
day.